Hi folks, I'm back with another video. It's been a while since I've done the last one, so I hope you're kind of excited about this one. This is a special video. It's be the first time I'm using a live camera and doing a face-to-face interview. Now, a few weeks ago, I went down to Jefferson, Oregon to see my friend Cleda, and she is a priestess and a teacher, and she has this great community around her that had built this great garden. Well, when I toured the garden with the camera got the better of me, and unfortunately that video was just terrible. So I managed to pull out a few still shots and create a PowerPoint with some captions at the bottom, and I hope that that will suffice for the garden tour. When we sat down to do the actual interview, the camera was fine, so that part of the video came out great. And speaking of technology things, at the very end of this, there's a couple of links to other videos from our community, from the history of our community. It'll take you into the Wayback Machine. I think one of them is from 1999. But this is part of a larger project called the Pagan History Project. And you're going to hear more about that as we go along. I am not the only participant, but this video is a portion of that. And so now let's meet Cleda and see Cleda's garden. So I wanted to start by asking you to introduce yourself to my audience, if you would.
I'm Cleda Dawson. I live in Jefferson, Oregon, and I'm a Wiccan priestess.
Okay. And how long have you been identifying as a Wiccan priestess?
Oh, since 1969.
Wow.
Yeah.
So over 50 years. How the heck did you get here? How did you get into Wicca in the first place?
Well, the route to here was from Tacoma. We came out of Alaska and moved to Tacoma. And I told Ernie I wanted to study astrology.
Okay.
And there was a teacher who also taught Wicca, as it turned out. So she was my teacher. Her name was Geraldine Morse. And I was with her 5 years studying astrology and then Wicca until we moved down here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was 1969 that you started studying astrology?
That was 1971.
Oh, wow. So, let's see, how long have you been down here in Jefferson then?
Since 75.
Since 75?
Yeah.
Okay. And how does it affect your life? What makes it different for you?
Well, in the first place, I'm a woman. You know, I'm female. And I was brought up in Assembly of God Church, which is a wonderful church. And that their belief in direct connection with the divine was very powerful, you know. And Wicca has that same belief, direct connection with the divine. But as a female, I wanted something else. And so I looked at all kinds of religions. I did serious studies of different religions and that. And moved on. None of them were for me. In 6th grade, I had a teacher, Mr. Riopel, and he read us the Iliad. And I can remember walking home, wanting to know where is that church? I want to go to that one. It's not on my neighborhood. You know, I didn't know where it was. I cried. I didn't know where my church was.
Oh.
I knew what it was now, but I didn't know where it was, you know.
Oh, interesting.
And so I looked and looked and looked and came across Wicca, and I looked again. And it fit all of my criteria. I didn't have to give up anything. I didn't have to believe in something I didn't believe in. I didn't have to do anything that felt wrong to me. As a female, I wasn't marginalized. I was honored, you know. So there was a place for the different experiences in my personal life, you know, those things that we all have, and that. So here I still am because it's the one for me. And quite often you'll find that when you talk to people, they will say it was like going home once I found it, you know. Yeah.
Right. That is a common experience we hear in these interviews too with other people.
It is.
Yeah. So tell me about the history of you and your impact here in the Pacific Northwest. There's a whole community around this garden.
Well, there is. That's so funny. It's so weird. See, I thought when I was studying that it was for me. I wanted to know what I wanted to know, and I knew what I wanted to know. I knew I had to, you know, get there by paths, you know, that I didn't know. But I thought that it was for me. I never thought about passing it on or teaching, or I had no interest in that. You know, I was just absolutely selfish about wanting. And I'm very shy and retiring, you know. And then, so being a solitary after I moved here was just fine. I like it just fine. But then I met another lady here in town. Our children went to the same school, and her name was Gail. And we got together. And then we started, people started questioning, and we started teaching in her living room. And then when we outgrew the living room, we contacted, there was a bookstore named Rosebud and Fish.
I remember Rosebud and Fish.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So we set up an appointment and talked with them, and they said, yeah, we could teach out of there. And so I did.
So you came into it kind of organically.
Yeah, yeah. And it was easy because there was the two of us, so, you know.
Right.
But then she went her way after a short period of time, and I continued to teach, which I never thought I'd ever do. And then out of that teaching, the garden grew. And the garden was always meant to be a magical space and a way of putting into practice the things that you learn and do. So there used to be in the community OPC, Oregon Pagan, it wasn't community.
OPC, the Oregon Pagan Community?
I don't think it was like community. That. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they would advertise any events that was going on or anything like that. You know, it was a wonderful way of keeping in contact. And so from that, I went to, it was either the 3rd or 5th Fall EQ. And there was about, everyone will tell you, it seemed to me like there was a whole million. There was about 30 of us, which was a huge gathering at the time.
Yeah.
You know, so that was in the 70s.
Do you remember where that gathering was?
Oh, yeah.
Was that at Beacon Rock? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, we got a little bit of that history from James Spake.
Yeah.
About the Beacon Rock events.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a nice site. Yeah.
Yeah. So how big is the community around here now? If you were to host an event, how many people do you think would show up?
I have no idea because of COVID.
Oh, right, but pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID, I don't know, there'd be under 100.
Yeah, I think I've seen 100 people on this property.
Well, yeah, there have been. We live in such a wonderful, different community here in the Northwest, because I've been to things down in San Diego area, which is where I'm from, you know, and so wherever I travel, I try and hook up with the pagan community, if I can. And,
that's great.
Yeah, and so I see how different ones work, but we're the most cohesive group I have ever been in contact with, you know, and that speaks volumes for the people, the elders of this community, because that was always how they did things, you know. So when we started building the garden, to get back to the question,
yeah,
it was a learning their magic by experience. And then we did the raising of the stones. We had wanted to put up the gates. And for that, we reached out into the greater community, not just the garden community, Craig Lavielle and Danny and them, and asked if they'd like to be a part of the raising of the stones. Because as we were doing the building of the garden, people would come by. Everyone wanted to be a part of it, it seemed. But not as many as wanted to work with stones. Let me tell you, when it came up, people that wanted to work with stones didn't even know it, and they were here. They couldn't wait. You know, it was just so exciting. And so the community was all together. You know, it was a community effort. And we raised the stones, and no one was injured. No one was hurt. It couldn't have gone better. It was happy. It was magic, you know. So.
Right. Yeah. It was an amazing event from what I recall.
Yeah, we had a dedication, and yeah, it was really nice.
So the garden has grown over the years.
Right.
What year was it that you started it?
Oh, 98.
98.
Right. We built the garden in under a year.
Wow.
So we went from maybe March to August to build the garden. Not the standing stones and the gates, that was different, but the garden, the paths, the beds, the fire pit, and all of that, yeah. And the dedication was in 98.
Wow.
And we dedicated it to the wider community and creativity, that it would be a home for the gods and goddesses, you know, and that it was open to anyone in the community. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very meditative place to be, a very calming place to be as well.
People come by all the time. They don't even knock. And use the garden. They meditate, they heal, they give thanks, they do whatever they do. It's a good place for people. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very magical space.
Yeah.
And I am very appreciative that you have it here, to be fair.
Oh, I am too. Yeah. And the people that work on it, some of them tell me it's the best thing they've ever done in their life, you know. I mean, the way they felt in that, you know. You can't ask for a better life than that.
No, you really can't.
Yeah.
Yeah. In any capacity now, with all this
I
crazy
do.
Lockdown stuff.
Well, I try to do whatever I've done always, you know. Yeah. So yeah, I'm. People stop by. People call, you know.
And you're still passing along wisdom.
I try. Yes, I try. You know, it turned out that I love teaching, but that was a complete surprise.
Really?
Yeah. No.
That doesn't surprise me that you would be surprised that you liked it so much.
Yeah.
Thinking that you were going to be a solitary.
Yeah.
So, how do you think what you do affects your mental outlook?
Oh, I think it makes my mental outlook wonderful.
You think
it helps?
It's a positive benefit?
I had a student when we were doing the tarot ritual in 2000, and she said that it was worth 3 years of therapy, 1 year of Wicca. Yeah, so I know that it helps mental health.
Yeah.
You know, it helps you organize yourself. It helps you look within and without. It's pretty good.
Yeah, and that is my hope, is that more people get into it for their mental health. This is why I do what I do. So tell me, of all of the episodes and antidotes and fun things that you've done in the community, what do you think is the one that comes to mind is, this was the most fun, this is the best thing I've ever done?
The scariest. I can tell you the scariest.
Okay, tell me the scariest.
The scariest was, I had a student for Kate Brown. And I didn't know who she worked for, and she wasn't governor at that time. But she asked me would I like to do an invocation for the Senate.
Oh.
And I didn't think that it was real, and I didn't answer it, you know. And then she asked me a little bit later, would I be interested in doing an invocation? And so then I thought, well, maybe she's serious. Maybe this could happen. And so I said, well, I'd have to see the space and see someone else do it. Could I do that? And I said, oh yeah, everything's all taped. You know, I could check out tapes. I could go and look. And so I did. I went and I watched some, and I thought, okay, this space is good. I can do this. And so I said yes. And then once I said yes, I wanted to do it. And so I didn't tell anyone, because I didn't want it to be a political problem for anyone.
Oh, I see, yeah.
I didn't want it stopped before it even got going. I wanted to do it once I'd said I'd do it, and then I didn't care what happened, you know.
Right.
But, so then I told a handful of people only, and did it. It's 2 minutes, I did it, but it was scary. I was up there, and
So you're
my
in the
news
State
just
House.
turned. Yeah, I gave it this opening invocation for the Oregon State Senate, There have been 2 more on the House floors in other states since then. I did it on the Senate floor.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, with my athame, I told them, this is an athame, don't bring me to the ground, it's not a weapon. And yeah, but my knees just turned to water. I've heard that, people say that, but honest to goodness, I thought I was going to fall down, and I thought, you can finish this invocation. And I did. And
Yeah.
that was the scariest.
And, you know, I remember hearing about it after it happened.
Yeah,
And the entire community was amazed.
yeah.
It's like, they let who do what? In the State House. Oh, goodness. So, wow, yeah.
So Kate Brown and her office took wonderful care of me. They answered with good answers when people called in. I mean, it turned out to be a very good thing. And Kate Brown always has my vote because, you know. So
Yeah. Now, what year was that? That had to have been late 90s, early 2000s.
I think it was 99.
Yeah, okay. That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So you have 2 minutes.
That's amazing. That's great. I love to hear that.
Yeah.
That's an amazing story. So we're almost ready to wrap this up, but let me ask you the final question here, because it's the loaded one, of course.
Okay.
What is your advice to any seekers that are on the path?
Find your teacher and be careful, you know, who you choose, because it's going to influence the rest of your life if it's your path, you know. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Find a teacher. Wicca, I mean, there's all kinds of pagans that belong to our group. I just happen to be Wicca. But Wiccans, traditionally, it's mouth to ear teaching, you know. If you can't find a teacher, solitaries are very welcome in the community because it's understood that teachers aren't everywhere, you know.
Yeah.
So, but be serious about your intent, and so that would be, is find a decent teacher.
And that is great advice. And that is exactly what we want to hear in these interviews. Is there anything you want to add? Anything you want to tell the greater community who watches my videos? All 87 followers or whatever I got?
Well, I'm really glad that you're doing this historical project because it's important. We've been going here, you know, since the 70s, and no one's done what you're doing.
Right.
You know, we've lost people along the way that would have been such good sources, you know, so
Yeah.
shame on us. But
Yeah. Well, that's one of the reasons we got this project up and running.
Yeah.
Because we were losing our sources.
yeah.
And so, thank you so much for agreeing to sit in this lovely autumn day and this fabulous garden and have this great interview.
Yeah,
I
thank
really
you.
appreciate.
Yeah.
And we're going to go ahead and turn off the cameras now.
All righty.
So that was a lot of fun. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it. And again, we're going to try and do it again in the spring when the garden is much prettier than it is at the end of the season. And as everything else on YouTube, if you like this video, please click like, click share, you know, click the appropriate buttons. You know what they are. And I hope you have an awesome day. Take care.